Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know that you are super excited to hear again from the director of the Veterans Affairs Home Loans Program, John Bell. He's been with us before and he's bringing us an amazing update for anyone thinking about housing in the veteran space. So enjoy the conversation. Your grandmother may have remembered this because this is a TV set from a locally syndicated show that came out of Charlotte in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And the lady's name was Betty Feezer. It was the first female led syndicated program. It was all over the Southeast. And I found her set in the basement of a listing. And so I bought it and brought it back here. So that's my conference room now. And now it's my new official set for my podcast because I said, I own it. I should show it off. It's a piece of local history.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And especially with the glasses and everything, it all goes
Well, this is my week to wear these all the time. Here, I'll show you the cookbook. You can ask your mama or your grandma if they remember a lady by the name of Betty Feezer. That was Betty.
okay.
So she was from West Virginia. Her husband, she moved to Charlotte, and then she had this home ec show with recipes and sewing tips and homemaker tips. And this whole area shut down at 1 o'clock when Betty Feezer was on TV. So I'd be at my grandmother's house, and if we made one peep while Betty was on TV, we would get whipped because she was that amazing.
I love stories like that. Oh
And
my
since
goodness.
this is like the whole thing, the young people are into trad life now. So I guess I got a trad conference room. All right. So I appreciate you coming back on the show here. It's been a busy 6 months in 2025. And of course, we're recording this at the end of the second quarter. And what I'd like to hear from you is what are you seeing on the veterans front when it comes to home loans? Are we seeing activity? Or are we seeing any changes out there on the VA home loans program? So to get those updates for y'all, I'm bringing you back John Bell. He's, of course, the director of the home loans program for the Veterans Administration up there in Washington, D.C., and he knows all things Veterans Administration loans. So I'm just going to tell y'all in advance, if you watch any of our previous episodes featuring John Bell, there's all the contact information in those show notes for any issues that you have with VA home loans. We're going to include that again. And I'll kick it off, John, before we talk about the updates to the program, and just with a big thank you. The episode that we did talking about disabled veterans and what programs are available in housing to them, that had generated so many comments for us, and we were able to direct them to y'all's new place on the VA Home Loans website, and they got answers. So thank you for making sure there was a pathway, and for your staff and team members who responded to all those disabled vets who had questions. I just can't thank you enough for hearing what the veterans were saying, providing the resource, and then giving them some answers, because that's been a big win for all of us.
Well, we certainly love to hear that. It seems like the home loan program is as popular as it has been. I think we're now 13 approaching 14% of total market share, mortgage market share. So that's certainly a positive. Definitely from when I got here, and we're less than 1%. So we continue to grow. We see purchase volume up about 7% over last year. So that's been a positive sign. We see cash out volume up about 28%. So another positive indicator. I don't really count EARL loans, to be honest with you, or interest rate reduction refinance loan, because that's more an administrative thing for veterans to be able to save money, right? So of course they would utilize those as rates go up or down, and we have very little control over that. It's really bringing new veterans to the program, whether or not that's through purchase or cash out, because a cash out could be where you're in a different type loan and you're coming to VA from that loan. We consider, again, we look at cash out, we look at purchase to give us an overall indicator of what our volume looks like. So we're almost at 400,000 as of today. By the end of this week, we'll be at 400,000 loans for this FY, which is amazing feat in this market. I'm glad that you said that people are utilizing our special adapted housing program. That's for our most severely disabled. Our numbers show that as well. We're up in every category in usage from that standpoint. But really, there are a few things that I wanted to bring to your audience attention, and that is we've got our real estate professionals toolkit that we went out with since the last time that we have met. So that's online. We've had really positive response to that. And a lot of that was honestly derived from conversations that we've had over the years, as well as other agents or realtors on what do you need to be successful in trying to promote the program. So you'll see things on advantage reference sheets to advantages of the VA loan, steps to obtaining the VA loan, FAQs, some of those myths that we've been dispelling over the years, contact information, and articles from realtors, newsletters, those kind of things. All that's online now on our website, so that's free. Of course, we'll drop that link to Leigh so that you can put that in the in the information. The other thing that we want to make sure that you get is we started last year's what's called our ServiceNow portal, and we would not have been able to answer veteran requests because the popularity of the program. And to be honest with you, everyone hears what's going on from a government perspective about people leaving, retiring, early retirements, those kind of things. So we needed a way to handle business more efficiently. So we started this digital platform. In the digital platform, you can submit tickets. No matter who you are, all you have to do is register and tell us who you are. It's like literally name and email, but you can submit those tickets. We have answered 126,000 tickets through FY25 and 1.6 business days. So we're answering calls in 30 to 40 seconds right now, and we are answering email, as you will, or the digital platform in 1.6 business days as well. So there aren't many government agencies that you can talk to that have those type of numbers and that type of quick response, back to the community.
Well, I feel like in a world where all we seem to talk about in the politics space is government efficiency, the Doge effect, you guys are demonstrating what efficiency looks like because it impacts the citizens that are in need of your services. That's a really good thing. So that's awesome to find out. And I got to ask you a question though about this portal. So as a realtor, if I'm representing a veteran and they have a question or an issue, I can now submit on their behalf the question and maybe
You can.
shortcut their frustrations because they don't know how to word it. And that's my job, is to help smooth the process through.
Anyone. So yes, you can go on there. Again, all you have to do is register, put in your name, your email address, submit your ticket, as much information as you can for us, right? So that we can track it down and make sure that we're actually answering the question that you need to be answered. Some of them are policy related, some of them are the file itself. But again, we're averaging about 1.6 business days in getting those responses back.
I love that. Okay, so when we're talking about efficiencies and going to your digital platform, one of the questions that has come to me in advance was, has service to veterans in the VA home loan program been impacted negatively by this push for efficiency, or are you guys fully staffed? I think that's one of the concerns people have is, as there are staffing changes, then the services fall off. Have you seen any fall off, or have y'all managed to pivot in the changing environment?
Well, you've heard the secretary talk about it's not necessarily money and it's not necessarily people that you have to look to solution. And so the good thing about the home loan program is we started thinking this way 5, 6 years ago, right?
Yes.
So from a modernization standpoint, we're going to continue to push the digital platform, AI, chatbots. You're going to see those type of things. And I know that you I saw that look.
I'm nervous about
Those are
AI, John. I'm not gonna lie. I use it, but I don't like it.
yeah, and that would not be for like PII information, right? So we would be able to separate out what we would use for, let's just say you want to know in what chapter and verse in the handbook, if you are researching a condo and what are the minimum property requirements for a condominium, you'd be able to put that in there and it would tell you exactly where to go find it. And the
But
click
if
of a
if I ask the AI about a specific veteran's loan, it's not going to have that. So it's not going to be involved with privacy matters. That's obviously
correct,
where I get nervous about AI. It knows too much. So y'all
correct.
have firewalled it off, where it's got different access points.
It won't even accept that information.
Oh, yay! But that helps.
It won't accept specific information about a veteran. It will only allow you to ask questions like, again, policy type related things. Another good one is what makes VA different than FHA or conventional and these standards? And then it would be able to go out and actually search the different handbooks that are out there, and generate you in a matter of seconds what those differences are. So, or things like that can be helpful, but then also give you options when you're talking to your underwriters and say, hey, this said this. How does the lender that you're using view it? And then that's at least some information that you're armed with, right? That you can go and say, hey, look, we were looking at this and want to bring that to the table. So it's for help. It's not a definitive source of information, but we'll still have the digital platform, right? That's a secure environment, and then to ask specific questions, or you can always pick up the phone and dial us. We'll answer the phone that way. What we're trying to do though is, as we see retirements happening, as we see fewer and fewer people at VA, we're able to minimize any of the work that needs to be done to support our veterans. And so it's giving us options.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as we make sure we're protecting privacy. Have to toss that in there. Okay, so your volume is actually up this year. This flies against all of the conversation that is being said about the housing market, which is basically that it's dead, it's the doldrums, it's in the worst time ever. And as a practitioner, I would say it's not as high as we've seen in some years, but our phones are still ringing. And the good news I'm seeing is that because the markets are still somewhat uncertain as to which end is up, and that depends on your zip code, it depends on the house, obviously. Our veterans are finally in a more competitive situation than they were 5 years ago during COVID when everybody was bidding over everything. So even though inventory is not great, I can get a VA loan considered for the first time in a long time. Do you think that's why your volume is up, that veterans are being successful now? Is this a pent up demand piece, do you think?
So let's talk about the numbers, right? Because you've known me long enough now to know that I'm a data. I make data decisions.
Yeah, because data's not emotional. Data's just data.
Data is exactly. I can trust it. I can utilize it versus others to really understand and see why we're making the decisions that we're making, and why our veterans are making the decisions that they're making. So our time to close right now is 30 days, which is 100% right in line with the industry. We're
Can I
all
pause you on that for 1 second? Hey, listeners and viewers, did you hear what John Bell said? Please stop listening to that agent in your office who is 1,000 years old, who tells you it takes forever to close a VA loan. This is the myth that makes me the craziest, that VA loans take forever to close. I just have to say it again. It's my biggest soapbox, and it frustrates the life out of me because too many practitioners are telling veterans not to do the VA loan because it's going to take forever. It doesn't take forever. Sorry to interrupt. You can say it again, John, then you can carry on.
30 days to close. It's the same standard pretty much for everybody at this point in time. Percentage of loans that start an application and go to closing 87.4%. It is the
Ooh,
highest in all the programs. So
is that
80,
is that holding
80
up all through the year? Or is that right now, or this is continually increasing?
it is been holding steady for about the past 2 years. That is an exciting, an exciting stat for us. Another exciting one is 6.8 business days to deliver an appraisal. If
Wow.
we were 2 years ago, it was 16 days. We struggled in some areas to deliver appraisals. And now we are averaging 6.8 business days, which is again, one of the leaders in the industry.
All right, so
Um,
is that with a human certified residential appraiser, or is the VA using automated valuation models or AVMs?
that is with an appraiser with a notice of value.
Y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that? Listen, the Veterans Administration Home Loan Program is not relying on inaccurate automated models. They're talking to our amazing appraiser community, the certified ones that know the VA program, and they're still getting it done quickly. You've got to stop telling falsehoods about this program, y'all, because it hurts veterans when we don't tell them that the best benefit, I personally, my opinion, is the best benefit our veterans have is the VA Home Loan Program. You guys are delivering. That is a crazy improvement over the last couple years, John. I'm totally taking credit because you've been on my show that whole time. So I'm taking the 10 days for myself.
Hey, I'll give that credit all day. The bottom line is that we make sure that we're there for our veterans, and we believe that we are.
I mean, that's crazy. Okay, so I have to ask about that because in that appraisal process, of course, you have that eyeball on the house looking for traditionally items that the seller has to take care of to keep the buyer happy. And so that's caused some hiccups the VA inspection process to confirm that the veteran is moving into a property that is not going to harm them physically and harm the capital asset long term. So that under 7 day window includes the person who says, I need you to fix this busted window.
correct. That is correct.
See, y'all, you have time
That's
to manage your process if there's a busted window because that's a tight enough time frame to deal with it in your investigation period.
and and to be honest with you, Lee, what it also shows you is so VA has a couple of things built into this appraisal process. One is Tidewater, right? So the moment an appraiser gets an assignment and starts looking at comparables. Sorry, looking at comparables, and maybe the value isn't there, right? Maybe they just can't find the value in what they're seeing. They're going to have to reach out and invoke what's called Tidewater, and say to the realtor and the lender, "Hey, we may run into an issue on value here. Help me, right? Derive value if you have comparables that maybe I'm not seeing." And so they will factor that into their decision, before they issue the appraisal. Then you've got a reconsideration of value process after the notice of value is so they'll submit the appraisal. A notice of value will be returned. That notice of value will then or can be challenged, and that challenge is called a reconsideration of value. And that's where a VA staff will look at the appraisal, the comparables that the realtor sent in, or the veteran or whoever, and then we will determine value from that. So all of those, two of those things are not available in the industry right now, except for VA. There have been talk that other programs are going to do it. I have not seen them yet follow our particular process.
And for the record, guys, you check with your state appraisal board about what your process for reconsideration of value looks like in every other loan type because the process is out there, but it's baked into the VA process because, again, we're trying to protect our veterans. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this because I know that some of y'all in the process of finding a house for your veteran client, you write an offer based on the multiple listing sheet, and then you get aggravated if the appraisal does not match. you should have done a market evaluation before you wrote the offer. It should be in your files. So it should be really easy for you to say, oh, well, I helped my buyer develop their offer based on this data. You can then share that with the appraiser. There is some misunderstanding in the profession about what one of the most hated pieces of legislation ever, at least, the ones I hate, is the Home Valuation Code of Conduct, the HVCC, which happened in 2009. And a lot of agents have taken that to mean you can't defend your offer, you can't defend your listing. That's not true. You can't influence the value, but if the appraiser reaches out and says, show me what you used to develop this offer and this contract, that is not you influencing value. That is you defending what you put together on behalf of your client in a fiduciary capacity. So don't let your misunderstanding of old legislation keep you from providing this information that you should already have in your file so that we can always protect the client that we're serving. And in this case, it's our veterans. And that's the reason I get to wear my little American flag glasses, is because of our veterans. And I can't stress enough that everything y'all are doing impacts the people who create the whole American dream that we have. And as realtors, you've got to make sure you're on your A game for every client. But I'm just going to say it should be your A+ game for veterans, and go ahead and come at me for that. But I'm right. And I love that you guys have taken a look at this process and created the pathway. And I know a lot of VA specialty realtors out there and appraisers have had their issues with Tidewater. I hear y'all. And as you have process challenges, maybe keep letting the VA know about it. Because if you've heard anything in this conversation, it is improvement, improvement, improvement based on feedback, feedback, feedback. So if you have issues, please bring it forward, because maybe you out there watching or listening have the magic answer to make this better for everybody. I'm so excited by these improvements. This is so good.
Leigh, can we switch maybe to a little bit of, let me introduce your listeners to who a veteran is, because I think that's extremely important, especially in dispelling some of the myths, because the VA Home Loan Program is not the product of last resort like it was 15, 20 years ago. It is a product of choice. And so let me introduce you to a veteran. A veteran has a 719 credit score. They've got an average debt to income ratio of 43%. 62% of them are exempt from paying a funding fee because they have some type of disability related to service. 15% of those veterans make a down payment. They don't even have to. Your first-time home buyers, 40% of the market. 40% of our veterans are utilizing the program as a first-time home buyer program. They don't have to do that either. And then the average loan amount is almost $400,000 now. So I say that because we needed to get better as a program and change things, because we saw that so many veterans are conventional buyers. They have they meet these same requirements that a conventional buyer meet. So what sets us apart? How do we compete in that space? So from a certificate of eligibility standpoint, when I came to VA, we were issuing certificate of eligibilities in 22 days on average. Now, within 3 days, we're doing it 99.8% of the time. Within 1 day, 93% of the time. And instantly, almost 80% of the time. So welcome your veteran borrowers to VA, because they deserve to be veteran borrowers and use the VA program.
And then if you're in real estate and you're an old person like me, you can be celebrating right there, because you don't have to tell your veteran. You're going to have to drive to Salisbury to the VA hospital and talk to the lady at the cage. And in 6 weeks from now, she might find your certificate of eligibility, and you'll drive back to Salisbury together, because that's what it used to look like. So yay for
the little green sheet. The little green sheet.
That lady in the cage was not happy to see us either. She was we like to call her a frog lady, because she'd been chain smoking for years. Hello. And so it was a painful process for everybody, and now it's not painful. But I love that you point out that veterans aren't deadbeat borrowers. That was the night you said it the nice way. I'll say it the way the perception is out there that it's for somebody who can't qualify otherwise. That's not the case. And now you think about it's faster, got a faster appraisal, you're gonna make sure you get the veteran inspection done for the loan program. Those are good things. But let me ask a question. So you said a lot of the veterans are doing down payment. Does the VA home loan program work with down payment assistance programs? Because I'm somebody who's a fan of using every available dollar when you have access to it.
Me too. The two of us have always seen eye to eye on that. I am 100% supportive. This program is 100% supportive. As long as it is a certified, either state run or recognized down payment assistance program, you can utilize that with your home loan benefit. And when I say that, very few would not be. So utilize them. It's money for, for our veterans, especially when you're talking about 40% of veterans right now are utilizing the home loan program for the first time, and not just the home loan program itself, but they're first time home buyers, meaning they haven't had a mortgage on their credit bureau before. So I think it's a perfect time to talk about that and to acknowledge that.
And friends, all you have to do is reach out to your preferred lender who understands the VA home loan programs and knows down payment assistance, and let them take you to lunch, and then they can explain to you how the programs work together so that you can then explain it to your clients. You don't need to explain to your veteran buyers how this works based on this podcast. In fact, I highly recommend that this is not your only resource. What I would say is go grab the real estate education kit off of the VA website and then go to lunch with your lender and talk about practical application, because it's your job as a professional in real estate to make sure the people you serve know the whole buffet. Think about this as one of the stations at the Golden Corral. And this is where you're going to talk about VA and what it looks like and what the down payment assistance looks like before you go to the next station. So you're not always just pushing the same product. And I say this with so much passion because North Carolina has probably more retired and active military than just about any other state when you add up the active duty, those that are honorably discharged and retired. When you talk about the reserves, you've got all of these people in our state who should know about all these programs. I think the only people who aren't eligible are the dishonorably discharged. Isn't that correct, John?
That is correct.
I don't think you can get the VA program if you got kicked out of the military.
If you get kicked out of the military, is that what you mean?
Yeah, dishonorable discharge, not released for disabled.
Yeah, dishonorable discharge, correct.
And the National Guard and the reserves, they're eligible for the VA home loan program, correct?
Oh, of course, without a doubt.
See, y'all, there's all these pathways out there. I just want you to think about the pathways that you can tell people about. And so, John, tell us about what's coming in the way of interest rates. I mean, you work in the government, so I'm just going to see if you have any insights for us. Are we going to see any rate changes? Is the VA part of the conversation with the Fed? And what's your crystal ball saying about that?
I mean, we still are the lowest rates in town from a VA product standpoint. So from a VA loan, our rates remain not only competitive but the lowest, and it's the lowest price program. One, because the 62% that we talked about already being exempt from paying the funding fee. So let's think about this. You don't pay a funding fee 62% of the time. You're not paying PMI, right? Your interest rate's lower than everyone else because one of the reasons is because our loans are outperforming other areas. So it's still one of the lower cost products for our veterans to use. So I don't understand not wanting them to use it and not being offered it first. So we'll start there. Now, the bigger conversation is interest rates, right? Like what's going to happen? Of course, I don't have a crystal ball because there's a whole lot of things that are factoring into this on whether or not how they will fluctuate. It looks like from everything that I have seen, rates are going to stay pretty consistent over the next year. They're hoping but they have been hoping for a while now that they're going to go back down a little bit. But I don't think they're ever going to get down to the 2.5s again, the threes or any of that. And here's what the other thing you have to factor in: affordability just continues to go down. So if you're not taking advantage of, if you want to buy a home and you come across the home of your dreams, buy the home of your dreams. And hopefully you're utilizing the VA home loan product to do so, because we think it's the lowest cost product out there. Oh, let me leave you with a couple other, not leave you, but let me say a couple of other things that, stats. So when we talk about appraisal, 92% of the time, the appraisal is either meeting or exceeding the sales price.
92?
92%.
Well, that is not the word on the street, John Bell. The word on the street is that VA appraisers miss all the time, that the VA appraisers are so mean and strict.
Myth.
Isn't that crazy?
It is a myth. That is not true. Maybe you should just have a segment of just myth versus, it's like.
Honestly, that's where the real estate professional toolkit came from, is that's what we're always fighting. Just like the myth that first time buyers need 20% down. You don't need 20% down, not in VA or any program, unless there's some special circumstance. I mean, golly, y'all gotta update yourselves. Reboot.
Right. And then if you factor in the ROV process with that, 56% of the ROVs resulted in an increase in value anyway, on top of that. Right. So that's not even factored into the 92%. So I don't understand that that argument, and have not seen data that supports that our argument in the other way. To me, VA is well suited and ready for more business, for more veterans to take advantage of the benefit and to get out and buy homes.
So what would you say, since you've been doing this for a long time now, what's the one surprising offer from the VA that people don't know about and don't take advantage of?
Well, let me just use some testimonials here. This is really where I like to not use my words, but let's use words from our actual veterans that are using the program, that write to us and tell us. U.S. Air Force veteran, 20 years of service, Mr. Gibb. Message to veterans is really serious. Look at the VA home loan program. It's been transformational to my family. Brian from a U.S. Army reservist, 26 years of service. For me, the best thing about the VA loan was the simplicity of it. I think that if you are not providing the opportunity and you're not giving them first shot at the VA loan, or at least a shot, then shame on you, to be honest with you. The other thing is let a lender tell you the reason why they can't get a VA loan. Don't be presumptive and say, oh, we don't want our borrowers to use a VA loan. Let the lender sell you out of using it. If you have a problem with one that says that a VA loan is inferior, please get in touch with me. And that will be on Leigh's website as well. So, so please tell us your experience. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. I promise you, Leigh will tell us. And one thing I've always respected about her is that she gives the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And that's how we learn, and that's how we make changes for the program for the better. So it's about communication, back and forth. We want to continue to be changing and growing with our veterans to make this program the most competitive product out there.
Well, I prefer good, bad, and the honest without being ugly. That'll be our new catchphrase, since the show itself is getting updated here. And that was probably our best advice to all y'all. Be good. Tell us the good, tell us the bad, be honest. Don't be ugly about it. So now, of course, I have a personal question, because I've spent the last 9 months of my life focused on Western North Carolina and how we can help those who have been just devastated by Hurricane Helene. What has the VA done or have you seen in helping your veterans in the disaster areas, not just North Carolina, but Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia? Of course, California got hammered, Missouri's had its challenges, Arkansas again, Kentucky again. What does the disaster side look like as far as forbearance, forgiveness on loans? What's the VA's mindset on that?
Sure. So great question. Hopefully you're able to still some of the help there, from VA. We have our hands tied a little bit because we have to wait on FEMA to tell us when they need our help. In some areas where we don't wait is we have information online in that real estate toolkit as well as our on our website about what happens if a disaster occurs. If you are in the process of buying a home, we make the appraiser go back out before the closing and make sure that the home is okay. On every one of our special adapted housing grants, which are our most severely disabled, we go out and actually make sure that they're okay and the home's okay. We also stand by and ready to help those that either one were underinsured and kind of give them advice and options on what to do next. So we're there. We're there in a limited capacity until FEMA tells us we need you to do X, right? After it occurs, before it occurs, or sorry, before you buy the home, we have those protections in place. So please reach out. What I would tell you is communication is everything. Utilize the website, your realtors, your community. We have been working, and we did work hand in hand with some of our congressional leadership as well as state representatives. What help we could support with what was available. So we were there. There are things we can do immediately, and then there are things that we can't. But we will be open and honest and transparent and tell you what we can help with. And if we can't help you from a VA perspective, what we will do is get you in touch with the people that can.
Because since you're responding to all these inquiries under 2 days, even if y'all don't get the answer you want, you can at least find out if this is your resource or if you need to move it along, because it's always a personalized process when you do it right. And I think that's what's driving so much of the success in the VA home loan program is y'all are really personalizing the process to each veteran, to their situation, to the market they're in. And I can't thank you enough for, well, first of all, coming back on the show to bring us an update. But second of all, for all the improvements, it feels good to get good news from a government agency that's doing good things for citizens on the ground. And I know that you and your team and everybody who works for you are glad every day that y'all get to do something really good with your time. So I really appreciate this. And I hope that everybody who's watching and listening feels a sense of optimism about the VA home loan program. And you're going to go right straight to the show notes and download all of these available resources so that you can help more veterans achieve the American dream, because that's what this is all about. So, John, thank you again for coming back on the show. It's just always a pleasure to have you bring some data for us and some news from the Veterans Administration. And I really appreciate that you choose to spend your professional life serving our vets.
I will tell you, Leigh, thank you so much for what you do. Getting the message out is probably one of the most important things that we ask, the community to help us do, and especially from the realtor community. We need all the help we can get. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to your audience. Again, let's see, what's the new mantra? It's the good, the
The good, the
bad,
bad, the
and the
honest, but not
honest.
ugly.
Right?
I think we're
Always
going to
great
have
to
to make
see
that a whole
you.
thing.
Well, it's always great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's such a pleasure, and just appreciate everything that you do.
Well, thank you again. And guys, make sure you hit the bell to subscribe. Make sure you go back and watch all the previous conversations with John Bell if you want to get some more insights on different veterans programs. Go to the show notes for this episode for all the links. And we'll see you next time with Leigh Brown.
Thanks, y'all.